it's that time of year where there's a cold chill in the air. The dew is on the grass. You can't mow the lawn until about noon when it dries out.
Yeah.
It's a little tidbit nipply over here in the northeastern Massachusetts. Well, I guess where am I? I'm not in northeastern Mass. I'm in central Mass. All right, so
Northeast.
we're in the northeast
Northeast of the country.
Yeah, and according to the Farmer's Almanac, we're not the northeast. Did you know that?
Really? What would be considered the northeast?
Like you.
Really?
Yep. We're
what
like
would you be considered?
We're known as like the I think it's called like the Maritime Corridor or something
Is
like
the
that.
Farmer's
corridor.
Almanac still a thing?
Yeah, I used it. I love that thing. That's the most
You
accurate
get the
thing.
grocery store, yeah.
For real, like I've never known anybody that actually read the Farmer's Almanac.
I was about to say, are you being serious, Trev, that you use it?
I used to use it. I used to when I had my snow removal business. It was it fucking almost it was almost like perfect every time.
What's it do? This might be more interesting than music, anyways.
It just tells you stuff. Like it just tells you stuff by like, like I would just look at it for, what months we're gonna get heavy with snow, what months we're gonna be light with snow, and it was spot on.
It's like getting your tarot cards read for manual labor.
Yes. That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. So
I'm definitely going to buy a Farmer's Almanac after this.
So this is going to be our October episode of the Bandcamp Friday Roundtable. As always, we're waiting on. Well, we're not as always waiting on Jeff. As always, we have the normal four. Jeff included with that. And today we have a special guest, the return of Arya Rad from Coffin Salesman. Welcome back,
how's it
sir.
going? Thanks for having me.
Live from Chicago, Illinois.
Yes, the Windy City.
It feels like since it's October and spooky, you should have said the return of Arya Rad.
Well, you just
we can build a kind of good intro. I'll send one over to you.
There you go.
Have you been to Chicago before? Is that your first time?
Yeah. This is like my second time in Chicago, and it's like Boston, but a little more together, a little better.
Yeah,
it's like what you want Boston to be like, but it just isn't.
Well, it's the way the city's built on a grid, right? So like it's way easier to get around in Chicago.
Yeah, and it's not like I love it, but it's like you just want Boston to not have the shitty things and situations it has to be that shitty.
Yeah,
you want to be able to like live there and do stuff, and the city feels like a little closer to that to me.
Like trains burning all the time.
Yeah, like I can get on the train and it's gonna take me there when I'm here. It always runs. And
I ran into Arya at a show over the weekend, and well, actually, you were playing in the show. you were part of the show, and there was this weird smell, and I thought it was like one of my dogs. I thought I had my dog chews these like hooves, and they smell awful, and I like thought the smell was on me, and I'm talking to Arya, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and then someone came in and said there was another transit train on fire. So that's right, another transit train on fire.
That's insane.
Yeah.
The one quick aside I'll have about being in Chicago right now is it's also Mexican Independence Day the other day. So the streets are clubbed full of cars in the middle of the night, honking, waving flags, blasting horns, people just like dancing, partying, like thousands and thousands of cars just like all through downtown, waving awesome Mexican flags and like shooting off fireworks, and it's wild.
That's an experience. Yeah.
So yeah, it's fun. A lot of
that's great.
Now Boston's in bed by this time.
Yeah. Oh man. All right. So Michael, you picked this month's X Factor. What did you go with for the criteria?
I went with spooky because low hanging fruit and it's Halloween and I like horror punk, so
yeah,
it was pretty easy.
Good morning.
Hi.
You're live from your new studio, right? Your new place.
Yeah, I'm live from the room I'm squatting in.
Oh,
it's new.
All right. Well, we just did the intro, Jeff. So we're ready to go. You ready?
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right,
Hit
so
the ground running.
Michael wanted spooky. He got it. In many forms. So who's going first? What are we doing here? Aria, you're our guest. You want to be our first?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Ooh, let's get into it.
Yeah. So, I'm gonna start first with my local pick. And so I recently saw this band at this outside Doom festival. They're called Crone Visions, and they have an EP called Devour. And they kind of do this kind of like gothy death rock thing, but have like a thick kind of sludgy low into it. And I picked up their tape, and as I was listening to it a few times at home, and I'm just like, these songs have some like really killer hooks. They're kind of like melodic, a little bit spooky, kind of dark, but really thickly built like rock background to like the music that I thought was like kind of cool, because a lot of times in that kind of music you get these really like thin, brittle, chorused out Kiara worship kind of guitars, which is awesome. But this was kind of like a very kind of like good taste of just like a nice solid EP from a band. And they're from Manchester, New Hampshire. So I expanded my scope to the New England scope just for something.
Yeah,
a little different.
My
That's
scope,
definitely still local.
yeah, that's local for us, and my scope goes pretty far west, so southwest. So,
But
yeah,
I mean, I don't really have like too much to say, but I just like really enjoyed their show, and like they have just like the sound just like goes down very easy for me. Like I just like something about it just all works together really well, and I just enjoy it. I love the vocals, and I love kind of like the heavy riffs under it.
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I would say I agree with that, because when I was listening to this, well, first when I was listening to this, I was like, this is great. Like there was, like you said, it's heavy. There's this apocalyptic feel to the heaviness of the music, right? But what sells me is the vocals, whatever. I didn't write her name down, but her vocals have this kind of, I don't know if it's just me, but it has almost like an 80s style to it, like 80s pop vocalist style. And like that juxtaposition with this type of music that's playing, it's such a different kind of experience. Like I haven't heard anything like this before. Like I've heard this style of music, but with different, like the vocals that would match, right? And for this, I was just like, it blew me away. And I get what you're saying, Aria, because it's heavy, but it's different in that it's light, because her vocals kind of bring it. It doesn't feel like it's I don't know, like oppressive. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's trying to do like they're not trying to be like a genre band.
No, not at all.
It's just kind of like work.
Yeah.
It's very organic to me. Like that's what I like about it.
I'll tell you, I wrote down that I learned some new terms for genres. Doomgaze, never heard that one before. Doomgaze is pretty sweet. And gothic dream doom. I was like, all right, I like that one too. Yeah, dude, I dug this. I really dug this a lot.
Aria bringing the doom, always bringing the doom and gloom to us.
Yeah, you gotta deliver.
This one, when it started, I was like, oh, okay, I wasn't expecting this from the name and the title of the album. I have goth rock with sludge guitar. Like that was totally, I mean, and again, like you said, it's organic. It doesn't sound like they're going for that. Like it's not manufactured, just what they are. It gave me a very 90s vibe. It reminded me of something, and I've said this before. It reminded me of a song that could be on like the Crow soundtrack.
Oh yeah, you
got like that goth and rock and roll kind of mix going on. I mean, I think any one of these songs you could do that with. I liked the standout track on this one was "Sleeping with the Enemy."
I agree. Actually,
yeah. And I think that was when I was like, yeah, this could be like this could be in the Crow like score, like
yeah.
So. I dug it. It was cool. It's good to hear new things from New England. So
I really like the drop tune. Like I like stuff that's drop tuned like that. just that super thick sound. But then whatever song I started with, it started with the guitar. So her voice was not what I was expecting to come over top of it. And like Chris said, I really like that juxtaposition of like her like sweet kind of serene voice. Like she actually has a very beautiful singing voice, I thought, and over top of that just like thick meaty rock sound. Yeah, I like this one.
I liked it too. I liked it a lot, actually. I think I agree with Chris that there's something very inviting about it. It's not like heavy in the sense that it's like a bit abrasive or like there's like something like almost kind of warm and spacey about it. And
Yeah,
I wrote down like, yeah, Halloweeny vibes, but like, I could picture it. It makes me feel like I'm in like a chill like dive bar, like basement dive bar type space, or at like a house party, and just like makes me just kind of like want to get high and like hang out in the back of like a chill like house party somewhere.
Yeah, there's a lot of like head
a New England style house party, like just like a
stand in the kitchen.
Yeah, it's just like it was almost relaxing listening to it. I actually liked it a lot.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, cool. Yeah,
Nice.
I know because I've talked to Trevor before about his love for like goth rock and stuff like that. We've had other band discussions about this. Yeah. So my second pick, I tried. So I kind of went back and forth because when you said like a spooky pick, like that, I think my local pick also kind of covers that. But I kind of wanted to really try something a little out there. So
you nailed it.
I think the first thing I would say as a disclaimer for people not interested in this kind of thing is I don't think you really call this music. This is probably more akin to like a sound experience. So this is the Ambiguity Research Institute. And so I have the page pulled up here. So just to give you a quick rundown, it's described as broadcasts that are picked up by two shortwave operators living an ocean apart. These broadcasts seem to be tape playback from a place called the Ambiguity Research Institute. These two radio ops recorded some of these broadcasts and released them in the hopes that someone out there might shed some light on the meaning of their crypto-acoustic contents. And so this record is kind of emulates a feeling of kind of like found sound. So it's like the fiction of the record is that they stumbled upon these tapes and they don't know what they mean, and it's playback and excerpts from these tapes, distorted, sampled, like frontwards, backwards, from these two locations, apparently separated from each other. And the more you listen to it, the more it kind of feels like I'd say less spooky, but more like the end of the world. I don't know like how many, like if you've ever seen like any kind of nuclear war movie, this kind of feels like that to me. I recently watched this movie called Threads. That's like a big end of the world nuclear war movie. And when I was listening to this, by the end of it, I'm like, oh my God, it's happening. Like the bomb is coming. I don't know why. And I think like what's interesting is like there's lots of like little vocal bits and noise and just like distortion and stuff. And it's all very opaque and unclear. And I think the overall listening experience is kind of like can be a little unsettling. And I think my barometer for stuff when I listen to stuff like this is like not so much how do you feel when you're listening to it, but how do you feel when you stop?
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
it's like I listen to it for a few minutes. I'm like, oh, what am I listening to? Why am I listening to this? So then I try to stop it. Then I'm like, whew.
Yeah.
So yeah, I for anyone looking for the audio experience of what you might get out of like a found footage horror film, I think this
fucking nailed it.
might work for you.
Yeah.
If that's not your thing, I understand. But yeah, interested to hear what people have to say.
So for when I do these things, I write you guys' names and then I write what the name of the artist is, the name of the album, and then my notes, right? For this one, I just wrote Ambiguity Research Institute, and then that was it. Like I couldn't write anything for this because I knew like no matter what I would write in that moment, I wouldn't be feeling the same way after. It was different. This is an experience, and it's like you said. So if you read the little info that they have about it, you see they're already building an atmosphere. They have this story in mind, right? And I love that, like, there's these two recordings, like they say, one from the UK, one from the States, and you get an intro for each of these, right? And these intros are these weird kind of collages of sounds and their voice recordings that kind of keep cutting and retracing over each other, and it becomes kind of disorienting. And then the next thing you hear is, like, they're called, what are they called, stripes?
Yeah.
So that these stripes of audio that are caught, and it's introduced as stripe 1, stripe 2 by the same voice, whoever this person is, but then it's this, each track, you can't even explain what it is. It's all different kinds of sounds. It's not, but it's not like if you hear like mooing or car horns. It's not that kind of thing. This is all kind of digital sound, kind of radio wave style sounds, maybe caught, like, like you said, there's vocals that are kind of sludgy. You can't hear what they're saying. Sometimes it sounds like they're coming over a PA. Sometimes it sounds like it's a recording or a radio signal. But the whole time it's kind of layered, and it unsettles you. So I had my earbuds in, and I just closed my eyes, and I was like, by the third track, I was like, okay. I started laughing to myself because Jeff sent a message in the group, and he said something about, like, what are you trying to do? Cause him a psychotic break? And I knew exactly what you meant, because when you're done, you're just like, whoa. I didn't finish the whole thing. I skipped a couple, went to the next section too, to kind of hear that intro and listen to a couple other pieces. But what I was interested in wondering was, did any of you guys check out their website that's attached to this?
Yeah.
So their website is, like, if you guys are fans of Lost, or any listeners are fans of Lost, this gave me that feel. It's that feel of, like, there's hidden things throughout the entire website. So a lot of times you'll click and it'll bring you to the Bandcamp. But if you start clicking everything you can, you'll start noticing some of them bring you to coordinates on a Google map. One's in the middle of, like, Zaleski Forest or whatever in Ohio. One's out in Russia. Then there's, like, these crumbled up pieces of paper with redacted statements. It's mind-blowing. And I'm just like, what is this? I love stuff like this. So I dug it. I totally dig this kind of thing. And I don't know about being able to sit through nonstop, track after track, but, just kind of being in the moment and immersing yourself in whatever world is playing. Cause I'm listening to this stuff playing as it's opening these Google Maps. And I'm like, what is going on right now with the sound playing in my ears? It was bizarre. It's awesome. It's a Cronenberg. It's a Cronenberg audio is what it is.
So I'm hearing that, I think I want to go back and listen to it and do that. A lot of my experiences with the music for this stuff is while I'm driving. So I'm taking notes while I'm driving. And when I take notes while I'm driving, I have to go back and I polish them up completely. Right. So by the time we get to this thing, you have, they're not just like fucking instinctive writing techniques that I do, With this one, I left it that way. I feel like it's going to fit the vibe, but if I had to sum it all up, I would say anxious and terrifying. But this is what I wrote while driving home, listening to this. This is making me uneasy and scared. How do you find this stuff? I feel like I'm in a paranormal film, like the VHS series. Seriously, I'm driving right now and I'm fucking terrified. And then I wrote, there's 16 tracks. If H.P. Lovecraft, Ray Bradbury, and Nikolai Tesla made a clone of David Bowie, this is what would happen. Orson Welles, eat your heart out, because Ambiguity Research Institute is coming for you. That's what I wrote. That was
nice.
That's a good reference point.
Yeah. It was it's very, very, like, and I don't think I finished it simply because, like, it was just, like, making me uneasy, and I think that's what it's supposed to do. Don't listen to this driving, to anybody who's gonna check it out. So it was definitely cool, though. You nailed, you were given you gave me
a task.
Yeah, you fucking completed it. Like, it's, I'm happy you brought it I'm happy, as uneasy as it made me feel, I'm happy you brought it, because it in everything else, I'm sure that, like, what Jeff's gonna say about it and what Michael's gonna say about it, it all adds to that, right? What do we love about, well, horror movies and in Halloween time, and we like to be scared, right? And that's exactly what this thing did. So mission accomplished.
I love this, and it was very creepy, but I found it anxiety inducing because of, so I don't know if any of you guys know about this, but there is an abandoned research station in Russia, like up in Siberia. And up until a couple of years ago, it's abandoned supposedly, but they were broadcasting from there, or people were receiving broadcasts from there, very much in this format, like a dude talking over sounds. And I think to this day, nobody's really figured it out. And from time to time, they will still release a broadcast and nobody knows who or why, but they know where it comes from. And it's all like very real life creepy. So then I listened to this thinking the same thing. Like I already had that in my mind. This sounds exactly like that fucking thing that's creepy. So this is super fucking creepy. And then I listened to the whole thing. Like I loved it because I was super into that. Every time they would send out a broadcast, I'd listen to it. And not that I speak Russian or understand anything about nuclear weapons, but I found it interesting. So like this is just one, while it's not music, it does make for like
I'm gonna have to look that up.
a good mental, I wouldn't even say storytelling, but like story building kind of audio.
Yeah.
Imagination.
Yeah. Imagination. And the whole thing
gonna pop off based off of it.
Yeah, and the whole like interactive like art thing too. And now I'm really intrigued to go back and listen to it. So
this is what I wrote.
what does it say?
Is that a diagram?
Help.
Help.
Yeah, I think I made it through the first track, maybe not even all the way. I think that this is what I could imagine the CIA making people listen to as torture, like locking them in a room, just making them listen to this. And it was terrifying. I think hearing the thing about the website, Chris, makes me feel like it's almost like viral promo or like guerrilla promo for like a film or something like that. Like I could see, I think at least that's probably what they were going for, like that vibe where like they release like a film sometimes gets released and they don't do a lot of like formal promo in the movie theaters and stuff like that. They do a lot of like underground, scan this random QR code that's on a tree and it takes you to some weird coordinates and there's like whatever, and it's all PR for the film.
Yeah.
I could see it being like that, I guess, which is kind of cool. But I did see the website and like all the imagery is all like 1960s, like MK Ultra style pictures of like radio or tubes and transmitters and like stuff like that. So it's going for that whole like vibe. That's why I asked. Particularly, I was directing the question at Arya if you had heard of the Conic Project because the Conic Project is this but real. It's actually it's number stations broadcasts, which number stations are like a real thing. Like Michael, you were talking about broadcasts. They're broadcasts from different shortwave transmitters that you can't trace that the way you can trace like an IP address. So like they can kind of figure out what direction it's coming from, but they've always thought that they're for government operatives, that they're codes that are like, they're just coded messages for operatives, like other governments' versions of our CIA or whatever, Russian spies, like European spies, like, and in the 90s and late 90s, they started compiling entire records of the numbers broadcasts. and they're not just numbers. Sometimes they're like creepy tunes that play underneath, and they're like weird distorted sounds in the background. And so that's immediately what this made me think of. It just seems to be like a kind of fictionalized version of that, which like a found footage film, like you said. So it's kind of interesting. But dope. Yeah, I would encourage you to check out the Conant Project if
definitely going to.
Being really scared or creeped out interests you, because it's super creepy.
Cool. All right, who's up?
I can go.
All right, Michael.
So both of my picks were local this month because I got super lucky. Shitty Neighbors, who I think was the first local band I brought, is releasing a new EP. They have released the single off of it. Fuck if I can remember what it's called.
Don't ever change.
I Seek Justice Denied is the track.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
Again, it's that Midwestern kind of hardcore punk sound with I really like the rotating vocalists in this band. Like they have 3 vocalists. It's a 4-piece band and 3 of them vocalize on the songs. So you get a little bit of a different change or a changing sound throughout, a little bit of fluctuation. They are releasing it on a different vinyl. It is like weird shaped. It's oblong for some reason because they want to make my head freak out when it's on the turntable. That will be out when this record's out. I haven't heard the rest of the other 3 songs, but I really enjoyed this one and I really like the band, so I figured I would bring it.
Nice.
Yeah, I think what was weird about this song is like the structure of the song is kind of like bizarre. Like they pack in like all these different parts into like a sub 2-minute song, and like I was like, what? I was like, but it's kind of cool because it's like there's all these cool, like interesting technical, like big poppy parts, and then like frenetic fast parts, and it's like I'm just like guffawed at like just the arrangement of it. Like I listened to it a few times and I'm like, I dig this, but like I my attention span is like all over the place. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna check this out when the rest of it comes out. I thought it was like kind of a cool take on kind of like catchy punk.
Nice. I said I put down that this song is 1 minute and 42 seconds of high energy punk that's full steam, breakneck from start to stop. I enjoy it. I am also a fan of the 3 vocals. I'm a fan of Alexis on Fire. They're the same. They have 3 vocalists, and it gives, each song, whoever takes over that kind of main vocal or whenever they kick in for their part, it kind of gives it a new, fresh feel. So yeah, I dig it too. I like these guys. The last time you brought them, I think I was like, hey, I really do like this. Reminds me of the skate punk days. Dig it.
I apologize for not having more notes than what I have.
It was one song. You shouldn't have that many notes.
That's true. I do like this band. We've discussed them before.
Love the band, hate the name.
What I wrote was for being shitty neighbors, they're damn good musicians. That's all I got.
Hey, that works.
I like it a lot. I was bummed that you couldn't click more songs to listen to the rest of it. I did think that you had done it before, or you had brought this band to the discussion before, because like it sounded familiar. But yeah, I like it. There was a couple parts where the vocal harmonies and like those dense vocals almost reminded me of there was a band called Hot Rod Circuit.
Oh yeah.
I don't think they've kind of been around for a while, but there were a couple of vocal parts that reminded me of them. But I liked the like big chorusy, sing-alongy, like kind of anthemic pop punky parts to it. And you've mentioned like several times like this like Midwestern punk sound, like Midwestern pop punk sound or whatever, and I think I can kind of hear that here. It's got like a like kind of almost like folky tinges underneath it, and it's cool. I liked it a lot. I liked it a lot.
Sweet.
I would like to hear the rest of it.
My second band also returning because they are a horror punk band, Creeping Nun, and their new album All Hail. also from Toledo. These guys, I don't know, but from what I've heard, they live the life like they're the guys rolling around in a fucking hearse and playing Ramones-esque horror themed punk rock. I mean,
Creepers.
it's creepers. It's
Those big
it's
shoes.
generally oh, I just thought you meant they were creepers because they drive a hearse. Yeah,
Air creepers or our creepers? It's two very different things.
it's fast horror themed punk. Yeah.
Yeah, so I wrote, it's like kind of like campy horror pop punk sort of, and like I think I've heard like a lot of this kind of stuff, and it didn't really fully go the distance for me. But I kind of, the parts I liked the most is when they weren't doing pop punk. There are these kind of parts like at the end of songs where like they throw in like the weird growly death metal vocal like right over the top, or like when they get into these weird, more like dissonant kind of riffy passages. I really liked those, like probably more than like the pop punk stuff. But I think they'd be like a fun band just to like a fun party band at like the very least. But like for me, I think I'd be interested in seeing like some more of that stuff kind of come through.
Yeah, for me, I put down that this kind of reminds at the first couple of songs when it started playing, it really reminded me of really like early My Chemical Romance or Aiden. I don't know if you guys ever listened to Aiden, but that's what this reminded me of, like kind of that dark horror, like punk, you know what I mean? So that's what I put, fast horror punk, but it does, it's got a makes you tap your feet, bob your head kind of, rhythm, and it's got a good energy to it. It's got kind of a 50s flavored like sound to it in certain songs. Yeah, I dug it. I thought it was fun, and it fits the spooky.
Yeah, it definitely fits the spooky. I wrote that was the first thing that got me. The name fooled me again. Last time you brought him, I was expecting to hear something different,
metal,
and then it wasn't. And then this time, the same thing. I forgot what they sounded like until they started playing. I said, I bet these guys live is like face melting fucking rock and roll. Like I bet you they put on a hell of a show. There's a song called Taken by Phantom, and I figured out like there's like a hint of surf rock throughout the entire album that I noticed, and that's when I did it. I don't know if that's all their albums or just this one, but I definitely figured it like by that song. I'm like, that's what I keep hearing. I kept hearing something, and like I just couldn't quite pinpoint it until then. I think they structured their album really well. It goes like hills and valleys, like there's a like it's like a film almost. Like with film, a lot of the times you can't give everything at once. You got to go up and then down and up and down. I feel like they did a good job with that with this album.
Nice.
I wrote the same thing, Trev, about the surf rock. I wrote like I like how it switches between kind of like the punkabilly and like the horror punk stuff, and then it goes into these like little groovy, like kind of surfy parts throughout it. I thought the exact same thing, and I thought it was cool. I thought it was super fun to listen to. I think also they would be fun live. They would just be like a fun band to watch live. I like the name too. I think it's great. There's like a campy. I don't mind that from time to time, like this sort of humorousness in like over the top, like dark names. It's like why I think metal bands usually make me laugh, because their names are so like deliberately, like something deliberately like gruesome that it almost makes it campy. Like I don't know, but yeah.
Cool. Nice.
I'll go next if no one else wants to go next.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So my local pick by way of Tennessee. I lived in Tennessee for about a year and a half. So I didn't know what to pick for my local pick, and I was listening to a podcast called Don't Quit Your Day Job. Don't is in parentheses. Paul Neal, fantastic interviewer. And he had Tim Nave, I think his name is. And they talked about the artist known as Tim is like the band name. And they were talking about the Bitter as Hell Part 2, I went back and I listened and I said, well, I want to listen. I want to do part one as part of this. So, he's got another band called Over Mountain Sound. So the stuff is very, very country-esque, right? And everything about this music, like I always say that, like, I'm not a huge country fan, but like there was something about this music that just got me. The way his voice changes while he sings, to like just the guitars and I can't even tell you, like I can't articulate in words what this EP did for me. Like I just really loved it. Like I wanted to go fucking grow a giant beard and go live in the mountains somewhere. You know what I mean? Just fucking stop contact with humans and just listen to this every morning. Yeah, that's all I got for it. I don't know. I really liked it, and I brought it here because I had a feeling that I hope anyway that you guys were gonna dig this too.
Yeah, I listened to it a couple times to have it like really like sit, and I'm like, this is like very like, because it's weird. It's not like it's a little more up tempo than a lot of this stuff tends to be, and it's not really like punky at all. Even though you can tell this person probably everyone's a punk at some point.
Yeah.
But it like has like this very poppy back porch kind of feel almost. It's very much like sitting on the back porch kind of music. Like it feels good. Like the harmonies and stuff are really tight. And like it just fits like this roots rock pocket kind of like really nice. Like I can't think of a good thing to compare it to, but I feel like it just like it really works all together.
Yeah, it's
really high harmonies were really kind of wild. He's really like really belting. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, Trev. You said Bitter as Hell Part 1 and Part 2. Did you listen to Part 2?
I have.
Do you think that this Part 2 sounds like Part 1? It has the same sound? Or is there a difference in that?
I don't know.
Only because I listened to Part 2. I didn't listen to Part 1. So everything I wrote was for Part 2. But from what you guys are saying, it sounds like that's what's here. So this is what I wrote for Part 2, and you can tell me if this matches with Part 1.
I put a link.
I know, dude.
I did the link flavored for you specifically.
Country. No, you didn't give Spotify link. Yeah. Country flavored Americana. I said the production was top notch, at least on the second one. It's amazing. The vocals and so the harmonies. I'm hearing you guys talk about it. For me, it was him and a woman that were harmonizing on the second one. Is that in the first one?
It's mostly just him with himself on the first one, but I'm not sure. Man.
Well, I'll tell you what, Part 2 is amazing. So check out Part 2 as well.
Yeah. Also, I want to say, like, he's not on Bandcamp, so you got if you want to pick up his stuff, you got to go to the artist known as Tim.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Part 2 is phenomenal, man. It's absolutely
it's good. It's
amazing.
Very good. Yeah. Amazing. But we're talking about Part 1.
Yeah, I know. I'll go back and listen.
The links I think were for me because I always end up not finding something. Yeah, I really like this. I like the visual that you put out there, Trev, the kind of like just sitting in the mountains listening to this early.
I never wanted to be a hill person before, and so I heard
like mountain folk. It's very good. Yeah, I dug this album. I didn't really have anything to add, but yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have too many notes about it either, but I also really liked it. I thought it was just enjoyable to listen to. I loved like the kind of bluegrass tones to it with like the banjo parts, and it was. I agree that it's hard to describe it. It's not punk, it's not punk, but there's a little bit of like that energy to it. It's an upbeat and faster and more like. Got more oomph to it than a lot of like country folk Americana stuff does a lot of times, and it has some almost like anthemic chorus parts and like hooks and stuff in it, and so I definitely could see this guy opening for like Old Man Markley or like playing on a bill with like that kind of or like Devil Makes Three even probably like I could see him opening for Devil Makes Three. So it's like that folk that has like a little bit of drive and grit under it that kind of comes from the punk world, which I love it. So yeah, I liked it.
I'll just say, like in the second song, Boomerang, just where it kicks off and it goes like, just, it's like when he like kind of changes his voice a little bit, you know, it just like it, I don't know, for something, there's something about that song that's fucking like, woo, woke me right up, you know? So, all right, now for my spooky-ish pick out of Missouri, we have Freight Train Rabbit Killer. The album is called Hammer of Judgment. All I have for this is doom blues rock and roll. It's in your face, it's rough and rowdy blues rock that you would hear probably at a place like you, probably not at a typical like bar that you would probably frequent at, right? This is like at like the roadside, like there's nothing for miles but a rowdy fucking roadhouse bar. You're gonna walk in and you're gonna hear something like Freight Train Rabbit Killer there. The song Pharmaceuticals, the first track, fucking, I don't know what it is about that song, but it hooked me right away. And the cover art was pretty fucking dope too. That's the reason why I even gave it a shot. So
Yeah, I feel like I had thought I had heard this band before, and I thought they sounded like a little more rootsy than they do here, but I guess I might have been totally wrong. But I know they sit in kind of like this like gross blues punk category of like a lot of those bands that play like Muddy Roots, like kind of like a Goddamn Gallows kind of that field of vision. And like what I thought was interesting about this record is they get like kind of psychedelic in some parts.
yeah,
Like they do a little more than that. Sometimes the camp is too much. Sometimes it works for me. I think it's an ebb and flow with the mood on this record. For like if I'm in the zone, it's great. If I'm not, like it's like kind of overkill. But I thought it was kind of cool that the blues thing happens, but then there's definitely parts where they do like a lot of weird like psychedelic production stuff with like delay on the vocals and weird bouncing around, that a lot of those kind of bands don't normally do. So yeah. I thought it was fun. And I thought that song "Mushering Round" is just whiskey in the jar, right? Did anyone else notice that?
Nice. Yeah. Yeah.
Did anyone have that comment? I thought I was going crazy. I was like, and I'm like, no, he directly references a line of whiskey in the jar in that song. It's definitely a thing they're doing. Okay. Yeah. But it was fun.
I love that this is a duo. I mean, I know they have other musicians helping them, but basically Freight Train is one guy and Rabbit Killer is the other. I wrote down dark, brooding, bluesy, fuzzy, thick, gritty, whiskey soaked Sabbath grooves. I loved it. I mean, I like when I have that kind of familiarity in that Sabbathy sound, that kind of, you know, that deep, like kind of dark blues metal feel, and then you kind of give it this other sound, this kind of, you know, like you said, there's a little bit of a roadhouse feel to it. Yeah, I dig this. I totally dig this.
And they can sing too. Like sometimes you're overcompensating with in this style, like you're overcompensating with the sound of it all, but like I feel like you could fucking belt out a tune, you know.
I feel like the one singer has like just enough of that gravel in his voice to like pull off that Western blues. Like I really enjoyed this album. And I liked when they steered into the camp, honestly. Like I just dig this.
Yeah, I like it. I wrote dark psychobilly. I wrote Nick Cave. It's kind of like Nick Cave meets The Living End. Which I don't know if you guys heard The Living End, but like a punkabilly band. So that's kind of like what it reminded me of. But there's some cool parts where I thought the vocal, like his vocal tone when he kind of like yells, kind of like leans into some of the like harder vocal parts. It almost sounds like the band Interpol. Like the vocals almost reminded me of like the timbre of like Interpol's vocals. Which I thought was cool. It like pulls out of the like kind of dark psychobilly stuff and like into like just a more like rock and roll like for a second, and then kind of goes back into it. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I totally thought Nick Cave too. As soon as the singing came in, I was like, "Oh, this kind of feels Nick Cavey." Very nice.
Yeah, spooky for sure.
All right, I'll go next. Mine is again somewhat local. It's within the state, New York City. I'm bringing Jigsaw Youth, and the EP is called "Are You Who You Want to Be." It is a 2-song EP, so I figure it's nice for everybody to catch and get through super fast. For me, immediately so I'm going to tell you, I saw this band in Binghamton recently. I went to go see another band and film their set, and I filmed a couple of the other openers, but this was actually the band that was headlining the show. And I didn't film their set, and I wish I had, because they absolutely blew me away. It was just 3 ladies, one on bass, one on guitar, one on drums. The bassist was the vocalist, and for their entire set, I stood to the side of the stage and I just kind of watched them from the side and watched the crowd interact with them. And I'm friends with all you guys on Instagram. I'm not sure if you saw it. I posted a video of this moment in a song where they kind of get the crowd to separate, almost like Noah parting the Red Sea. And then they come in hard with their music, and that crowd just crashes together and just goes absolutely apeshit. So that immediately sold me. And I was like, the second I get a chance to, I'm bringing this band to Bandcamp Friday, because I just want to talk about them. Super heavy. It's groovy, grungy. I wrote down that it's very explosive. The vocals for me are killer. Usually when you hear these like kind of harder rock, heavier rock songs, you have female vocalists that either have that kind of screaming guttural sound to their voice, or they like to do the kind of like softer higher kind of register, kind of like Flyleaf, you know what I mean? But it's rare where you have someone with this kind of deeper, kind of more tonal sound to her vocals. And she goes from that kind of deep tone to that, like this acid soaked razor burn quality when she starts to growl and scream. Dude, I just absolutely loved it. The band is tight and it's frenetic all at once. And for me, this EP is like literally a sonic punch in the face. And I'm telling you right now, you want to see these guys live. You want to see this band live. If you ever get a chance to see them live, do it, because they are going to blow your mind.
Sorry, I dropped out for a second. Did you see them? Have you seen them?
Yes, this is why I brought them. I saw them and they blew me away.
Yeah, so I think maybe this band would change my mind if I saw it, because I think like for me, this kind of sits in like this weird hard rock space that I just don't really connect with that much, because I was always very apprehensive about like 90s hard rock and grunge and stuff personally.
Yes, it definitely has
and so like
feel.
this definitely has a feel like it sits in there. And like I actually contrasting with some of the comments on other bands, I liked when they did like punkier, faster, more aggressive parts. And I thought there was like some cool stuff going on with like, I loved like kind of like the fuzzy weird guitar tones happening. So yeah, maybe it's something I need to see. I didn't really personally connect with it, but they're definitely doing a thing.
Grunge is hard to do. Very few bands that now that are newer that I'm like, yeah, they do it right. These guys do it right. They set the bar as far as I'm concerned. It's hard, fast, treacherous music. It reminds me, like, I want to see them with Wired for Sound on a bill. Out of New Hampshire, because very similar. Like they're another band that does it right. How is Jigsaw Youth? Are they popular? Like, are they to the forefront?
I think they're getting pretty big.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been around since like 2017. So they've been doing it for a few years now, and they're getting bigger and bigger. But I think they're still at a level where you could see them at, the smaller venues in your area, even some of the bars, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As the bigger bar venues.
And they're all female.
Yeah, all 3. Yeah. And they're young. I mean, probably 20, 21.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I'm assuming. I mean, they're killer, man. I was, like I said, just absolutely blown away.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have to say much about it. Like I said, they set the bar for the new grunge movement or whatever. I think I just made that up. I don't know if there's a new grunge movement, but you know what I'm saying. Like they said, like as far as new bands that want to play grunge, like they listen to Jigsaw Youth. They're doing it right. So
I actually love that description, the new grunge movement, because this reminds me a lot of like stuff that was super popular when I was in high school, except they're doing it fucking better now, because I mean, people have easier access and it's easier to distribute music, so you can take more risks without blowing your career. You might not build as big of a career, but yeah, I really dug this band. Like I said, it reminded me of a better sound of what I was listening to on the school bus going to school in high school. I just dated myself.
Like new metal is having that moment too right now.
Yeah,
Getting a lot of
definitely.
new
It's
metal
doing the new comeback,
where it's like
new comeback.
I feel like
less
new
cheesy.
metal, like new
New
metal
metal.
is just like, I don't know, like that was the last bit of like money for rock and roll. It was like new metal got it right. So does that mean
probably.
does that mean they're faded out and coming back, or are they just still here? I don't know. I don't listen to it, so I can't.
No, they definitely faded out. But,
Yeah.
You guys don't still listen to Limp Bizkit?
Trev's got all their vinyl.
The Fred Durst reimagined look now. Now he's like famous again for
the old man.
Yeah.
the dad vibes.
Is that what new metal is? Limp Bizkit? I don't even actually.
I think maybe we should have like a separate special. You can call. I think
the new metal.
I don't think I'm
special.
qualified. I think if you want to call Squally Green Thumb to talk about new metal, I think you should do that.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
that's
feel
awesome.
I am admittedly out of my depth.
Anyway, I liked this a lot. I didn't write too many notes on it. I dig the 90s industrial alt rock vibes, but I feel like it has some chaotic hardcore undertones. I felt like the second song on it kind of throws you off from the first song. If you listen to the first song, you kind of expect one thing, and then the second song like kind of throws you into something different, and that's always appreciated. So like there's a diversity to this. It's not just grunge or new metal or whatever. It's got a good mix going on. So it's cool that they're super young too. Like I'm always just feel like the generations below me are doing things better and are super badass. So
for sure.
I'm always impressed.
Yeah, and anytime I see bands live that blow me away, I'm always like, I got to tell people, I always want to tell people about them. So all right, for Spooky, this one I just searched for. I didn't know this band ahead of time, so I was just kind of looking through different, search terms to try to find something. And this one stuck out to me only because it has that camp feel. So this is the band Deadly Lo-Fi, and the album's called Home Sweet Homicide. I put that this is rabble-rousing, high-octane, lo-fi, spooky 1950s styles rock and roll with saxophones and organs. This sounds like the music that like Herman Munster would probably listen to in his car as he's driving to work. It just has that. They're already like really leaning into the horror punk style, the vocals, the just the style of the way they play, that kind of creepiness, the titles of their songs. They just lean heavy into it, and they're not apologetic when you listen to it. I mean, it's just all in, right? And I love it. I really do. This is something that I would probably be listening to over the next month in October, because in October I like to keep what I'm listening to kind of have a spooky feel to it. So this would definitely work.
Yeah, I found them to be like really cool, kind of creepy garage rock. And like this is kind of like the band you go to the Halloween party. Like this is the band you kind of want at your Halloween party. And like one thing I'll say is it's hard to do lo-fi that sounds cool and doesn't sound like shit. People kind of like it seems like an easy thing to do. Like, oh yeah, just like record everything shittily. Yeah. And then but to make something that's like lo-fi and listenable and sounds cool. I think it was a lot of fun. It's like has this big garagey vibe, and just when kind of like the garagey thing gets a little lot to be a lot, then they kind of break off into like there's kind of like a couple of pop songs kind of like later. Once you get kind of deeper into the album, like there's a song I Walk Into the Sun, and I'm like, oh, this is nice, like a nice easy, like not barn burning garage song, but just like a nice easy pop song. I think the only beef I had is in the very first song, everything is completely blown out and distorted except the saxophone. The saxophone comes through like bright and clean, and I'm like, what the fuck, man? You couldn't run that. You couldn't run that through like a broken tape machine or something, just for like Jesus Christ. Like, but no, but then they like double the sax a lot later, and that's cool. But no, it's a fun, really fun listen for a solid, really solid lo-fi kind of garage band done well.
I just wrote spooky swing rock and roll. It's fun. Mission accomplished. there's an instrumental track called Dextro, and that happened to be
Mhm.
my favorite one on there. That's something I would hear at a Halloween party, like, you know, when we were kids, like put it on the tape player, kind of just
Oh
play
yeah.
it.
I thought I was gonna hate this because every time I see lo-fi, I think of like the electronic version. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. The
just
study music.
yes. I was like, what the fuck? But this ended up checking so many boxes for me because it has that like it has the horror that I wanted. It had that 50s style kind of psychobilly played fast. It had the lo-fi. I really dug this album. And like Aria said, I liked the little switch later on in the album where they went from staying pretty solidly in that like late 40s, early 50s sound mixed in with their punk thing to like a little poppier vibe later in the album. I really enjoyed this one.
Okay, too. I love like the different variety of like guitar fuzz and the different guitar tones they're using stuff. I love the song titles. I wrote down, I imagine this playing in like a southern dive bar in like Louisiana or Mississippi. Just manic, dirty, like southern rock. And yeah, definitely nails the Halloween spooky vibes perfectly dead on. I think it's a perfect fit for that. So yeah, I liked it too. I didn't have any other notes, but it was cool.
Sweet. All right, you're up, Jeff.
Yeah, so my picks were a little bit of like, I feel like low hanging fruit for this month, because I was like super behind on trying to pick something, and I always agonize over what to pick. But I didn't know that we could do stuff that technically isn't on Bandcamp. I thought we were trying to stick to Bandcamp. So I wanted to do this guy King Coyote or King Coyote. I don't know how he like pronounces it, but it's kind of weird. But anyway, instead, for my local pick, I did Matt Murphy's EP Salt. Matt Murphy used to be in the band Tied to a Bear, local musician from the Somerville area. He's super cool. I played a show with him last week, and he's a super nice guy. It was kind of cool meeting him and getting to play with him. So I was checking out some of his music on Bandcamp, and I really like this EP. I think it came out in like 2016. 2017. I don't think he's released too much since then, but he's still playing shows and stuff like that, and he's super fun to see live. He did a great job at Winter Hill the other night. But I dig his style. It's kind of it reminds me of like the old Edison, but a more like emo old Edison, or a more like pop punky old Edison. It's kind of like gritty, acoustic, yelling vocals, but it's more like got like some pop punky hooks and stuff like that in his writing style. And I also loved the cover art for this album. It's like really cool neon on matte gray style animation, kind of almost like a vaporwavy like animation, but like muted. And since we've had numerous discussions about cover art in the past, I thought that was relevant for this, because I'm always a photo guy. I'm not as much an animation guy, but this was really cool. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you picked this one because I actually, his previous EP I listened to a lot. It's in like regular rotation. It's called And Adam, and it's like probably one of the saddest things I own, like period, full stop. I think it's like a completely beautiful, tragic little EP. And yeah, I think Matt Murphy really nails the kind of like really emotional, like sort of emo kind of acoustic sound without being like annoying emo. It's just like it is really like heartfelt. It is really like sad and longing. There's one line in one of the songs that's like, I fell asleep on the drive and missed everything, or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, a good record to like lay down
Sad
when you
songs
feel
forever.
that way. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's like he really puts like the guts into it. It's like I think that's what makes it resonate. So I think, yeah, I enjoy it.
Yeah, I dug this a lot. I put down that this has a lot of soul, but not like Motown soul, but like soul from the heart. And I'm a huge fan of singer-songwriter stuff. So I really dug this. It's a really nice collection of songs, and he's got a really good voice. I like his voice. I like just the kind of raspy style quality to when he really is kind of belting it out, and then but he can still kind of sing and have the melody in there as well. Yeah, I really, really dug this a lot.
This is on brand for me. Sad. There's some sad love songs in there. It's a solid album. Sometimes you don't have to, you don't have to say a lot about an album to get your point across, but this was really good. He plays the guitar with authority. I said, knowing that I didn't know he was from Tied to a Bear. Thanks for registering that in my brain, because I'm going to break out that album today and listen to it on the record player. Good stuff. This is really good stuff. I bought the album this morning after I heard it. So
nice.
Yeah, I just listened to it this morning, and like Trev, very much on brand for me. It's a dude screaming over an acoustic guitar about his emotions. So I dig it. Like it fits right in what this could go into regular rotation for sure. I was pleasantly surprised this morning because I didn't see the messages yesterday somehow.
That was late as hell.
And I did love that cover art, Jeff.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, it's just that mountain with the word
it's cool.
salt
It's
over
great.
it. But then there's like this tiny little crescent moon that looks way too small for like the image that it's in, and it draws your eye right to. I don't know, for some reason I found that kind of neat.
It's great. The next time I see him, I want to chat with him about who did it for him, because
I like that negative space.
Somebody local.
I like the negative space of the trees too in front of the mountain. You can see it's pretty sweet.
He's a lovely human being as well. So
nice.
super nice guy. Anyway, and then so for my spooky pick, I did the album Axis Monday by Brownbird, which was the last album that Brownbird recorded officially, and I believe it was released posthumously. I think Morgan Eve finished it up and released it after Dave passed away. I've brought Morgan Eve's new band, Hunters and Holder of Hands, to the roundtable before. I love them. They are the like perfect example of what we've been calling doom folk, I think, to me. And Brownbird has a lot of similarities to it, but there's a different, almost more like darker rock quality to a lot of Brownbird's music that you can see. Like if you listen to Hunters and Holder of Hands, you can definitely see that progress, like where Hunters and Holder of Hands evolved out of. Brownbird's a super interesting band to me. I love the guitar work on this record. I love the tones. I love the like dark, intricate like parts, like little riffs and parts that he wrote. It's got like complex kind of dark lyrics, and it's got this like folk, just this like sad, spacey like folk vibe throughout the whole thing. I don't really even know how to describe it. It was the closest thing to spooky I could kind of think that I lean towards usually. This is a record I have listened to but need to dive into more and get like more familiar with. It's completely sold out on vinyl. Like as soon as she released it, it like pretty much sold out, but they still do re-release stuff and put out stuff occasionally. She still keeps the band sort of active in the space. So I like them a lot, and all the stuff that she's involved with a lot. So yeah, it's a cool record.
Yeah, this record is great. I've listened to like some other Brownbird stuff before, and I think and I didn't know this was the last record. I think it makes sense because this feels a little more like developed, and they kind of bring in a little more like Eastern influence. Like there's a lot of kind of like more harmonic minor kind of
like Eastern European, like
Middle
like Eastern influences.
Yeah, like a lot of more harmonic minor, borderline like klezmer kind of oriented sounds that notice kind of in like their previous records that feel more like American. But
Right.
it's a very like kind of somber music, and it's like I think when I first heard it, some people tried to like tell me about them a long time ago, and I was like, I didn't get it because I'm like, oh, it's just like too quiet and too, but it's like very focused and very like beautiful in that way. And like I love like all the sounds that are happening. I love, you know, in a weird way for a record like this, I love the electric guitar sounds. Um, I love like the songs are really cool. It's like it's very kind of dark and somber without like trying to be. It feels like it's very natural, just like I think really late night dancing with yourself kind of record in like slow motion.
Yeah,
Whatever that means.
I wrote down haunting. That was my main word here, was that this had a very haunting feel to a lot of the songs. Phenomenal vocals and musicianship, I thought. I've never heard of Brown Bird, so this was my introduction to this band. It sucks to hear that it's that he passed away, so that sucks. But I put down here that this is not, so I saw that it was listed as folk, which to me there was so many other kind of sounds throughout this album. There was like almost like a spaghetti western sound to it at some point, traditional Americana. There was Middle Eastern, like that Middle Eastern sound, some Spanish polka, I heard in there, some two-step. I mean, I was just like, this is absolutely phenomenal. I just can't believe how much like influence is in one album. Like it's just every other song was just this new refreshing feel of like this band saying, we want to do a song in this style now, and then they do, and it still sounds like the band or what they've been doing with every other song they have. I mean, I was blown away. I absolutely loved it. I sent a link as soon as I listened to it. I sent the link to a friend of mine that I knew would like it. I'm like, you got to check this out. And his voice and a lot of these songs remind me of Serj Tankian from System of a Down. He has that kind of like that Middle Eastern kind of singing style in certain parts that I don't know, man. This one was a mind blow for me. I just like, wow.
Yeah, I was gonna say while Ari's still here, like he layers in Eastern European and Middle Eastern sounds the way that the way that Eric Peterson from Mischief Brew did in a lot of Mischief Brew stuff, particularly on like the Stone Operation and Songs from Under the Sink. Like that, I love that. I think that's really a testament to his musicianship and their musicianship, and like it's really cool.
Yeah, I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
I remember when you brought what's the other band, the Huntress,
Huntress and Holder of Hands.
Yeah, I remember when you brought them, and I remember the story and how it started with Brown Bird, and I remember listening to some of Brown Bird, and I really enjoyed it. But it never kind of like I never went back. After I initially heard it, I'm glad I did. I'm glad you brought it. It's very somber and sad, but there's something beautiful about it that makes it a whole thing. It reminds me of this album in particular. It reminds me of something that'd be played on like remember the show True Blood?
Yeah,
it was like swampy, like supernatural show. Like I feel like this music would be right at home with a show like that. Something that takes place like, I think that take place in Louisiana maybe, or somewhere down south. Like it just has like a swampy supernatural vibe to it, and that's the only way I can really equate it is to something like that, like a TV show or a movie. It's really well made, and I think it could be just plucked and put into other projects to keep it alive. It will keep the music alive, and it will add to a new form of art. I don't know, that's just what I got, the vibe I got from it.
I briefly listened to this, and the only note I wrote down was flamenco, and that's not even correct. Now that you guys have mentioned the Middle Eastern, I'm like, that's what he's doing with the guitar. But that song Bannerman, that little guitar riff in there, I really liked what I got to hear, but I'm gonna have to go back to this one after we're done here.
Yeah,
it's good stuff.
It's cool, yeah, for sure. And they had this really like extremely diehard fan base from what I understand. Like their fans are like very rabid fans. They like love this band. And so much so that there's a restaurant somewhere in, I want to say it's like Michigan. They did a whole little like video about it on YouTube. The owner of this restaurant named the restaurant after one of Brown Bird's songs.
Oh, wow.
And like flew Morgan Eve out to like dedicate the restaurant and stuff like that, and kind of like in the guy's memory, in like the memory of Dave, I believe his name was Dave, her husband. So yeah, they have like a really interesting like following and like fan base, kind of almost like a cult following, stuff like that.
I'm gonna look that up and go to it.
Yeah, I can send it to you guys. I can find it.
Yeah. Oh, also, as we're gonna, because we're closing out here, Jeff. It doesn't have to be on Bandcamp. It can be any, like if you can buy it from their website or whatever, you can always bring that. So you can always bring that other one another month, I'm sure, right? They're local.
Yep. Yeah, maybe I'll do it next month.
Cool. So this was a success for October. Aria had to leave, but I want to thank Aria for being part of this today. Make sure you check out his music, Coffin Salesman.
He Irish goodbye the listeners.
Can you say that? Is that right?
Yeah, you can say that.
Okay. I don't know. I don't want to be discriminated against Irish.
Maybe we beep it then.
Bleep.
Bleep the listeners.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this was one of those kind of months where we kind of all we were in sync with one another, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like everybody brought great even the ambiguity research one was so for me an interesting kind of thing.
Honestly, that might have been my favorite one that was brought, just because it was so different. For some reason, I sat there and listened to the whole fucking thing in one sitting.
Yeah, man, it's awesome.
When I listened to that,
you might need to go get some help.
Yeah, for sure.
When I listened to the artist known as Tim, I was like, I have to bring this. Like I played it off because I lived in Tennessee for a time, so that's why I was happy that I could play it off that way. I'm always bending the rules. I know.
I was thinking about that. I was like, that opens up basically the whole of the East Coast for me, because I was a rambler.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right, gentlemen, plug your stuff. What's going on with your worlds?
Oh God, everything, right? I mean, we're doing our stuff. I've got other podcasts, Tube Time. Silence Your Phones, Out of the Shadows. Check them out. And a lot of stuff coming our way here soon. Some video production stuff.
Yeah.
punk.a.folk.net, punk.a.folk on the YouTubes.
You write any reviews lately?
Fuck no. Dude, I've honestly just been so busy.
I hear you. Jeff?
Yeah, nothing new for me lately, but you can check out Dirty Decibels podcast. It's dirtydecibelscast.com or anchor.fm/Dirty Decibels, Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And there might be a few new episodes coming out sometime.
Yes, you and I need to talk, my friend.
Yeah.
We need to talk. Yeah, he's like, yeah, whatever. All right. Well, I'm the Struggling Artist. You can find everything at the Struggling Artist podcast. Just search for it. We got some stuff going on. So, and we have a network, the Eclective Network, Eclective Podcast Network, eclectivepodcastnetwork.com. Head over there and check out some of the shows. You'll be familiar with some, and some will be new to you, and check them out. So,
there you go.